Ghoti at Ignister, and so many other top metagame contenders out of this weekend's OTS Championship weekend. Enjoy all the deck list. Alright, don't be like the 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-loving crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out more off content. Alright, we have a lot of deck list to cover here. First one's going to be Ghoti sporting off. Yes, this is our Super A package in here, and we are playing a mini Ruka as well, and we are playing the adventure package in here. So the entire purpose of this is to basically get combo going here, and then of course having access to White or a Whale is always going to be good, and then kind of some cleanup on aisle 9 type of cards here. And we are playing the Forbidden Apocrypha and the Royal Decrees in here in the side deck as well. I actually kind of really like what this deck is doing. You don't tend to see a lot of success out here, especially with variations of this deck like this. All right, a lot of people just kind of toss this aside and they're like, you know, I don't really want to mess around with Ghoti, and I understand that, but this is still pretty cool to see the levels of success that this deck is actually having out here. So good stuff with this. Next up here is going to be at Ignister. Oh boy, and we're actually sporting off a small world package in here. Now the first thing I do want to say here is a lot of these variants were going towards playing the Mech circular package in here because it just kind of made this deck feel, I guess, a lot more consistent in the regards, but this build is not touching those cards whatsoever. We're actually focusing on like Crossout Designator in here so you can kind of get off the ground. The biggest problem this deck fears is like a giant space rock here, especially since Nibiru is returned back into the format here. This deck's going to kind of struggle a little bit more to kind of play around that. You also have basic hand trap ratios in here as well, but a lot of decks are going to struggle to actually be able to out this. I mean, yeah, Destructive Daruma Cannon and whatnot does exist within the format here, but it's not really looking like a big focus right now as you're kind of looking around the format going, you know. We're also, yeah, focusing still on 3 field spells. It's mainly because you're playing Pot of Desires in here, so you don't want to lose one to banish. Alright, next up here is going to be our Sky Striker deck. Yeah, Sky Striker actually also had the chance to see success out here. Honestly, you're still pretty hand-trapped out of your mind. I think 1 Rose is fine in terms of ratios, and of course, we are playing defensive cards like Book of Moon. We're not trying to play Book of Lunar Eclipse. This deck can't really clean up a huge field. And then you're kind of relying on Lightning Storms here to kind of clean up also a lot of the back burner as well. So good stuff. I also see afterburners as well. All of these ratios feel very fine. I do like the inclusion of the triple talents in here as well. This is going to give you the chance to clean up a lot of issues that your opponent might have. And then of course good old Lancia as well, shutting down anything that your opponent might do, especially, you know, creating like an infinite macro machine for this deck. It's not exactly something that this deck can necessarily deal with at the high volume. So not surprised to also see that this is a consistent monster. Next up is Runic. Ah, yes. I will tell you, for what we've seen out here for Runic, I love getting the chance to see the differences in opinion, and this build is actually going pretty full circle here, maximizing on Majesty's Fiend and the triple skill drain here. So anything that the opponent might be setting up that this deck does not want to deal with is going to be cleaned up relatively easily. And once again, that's kind of what you want to see here, especially with all the threats in the current metagame. We're citing Inspector Board, and we're citing Jinzo as well. I guess this deck's greatest weakness is actually just any of the back row decks, but somebody that asked the question, what's playing Jinzo this format? Well, evidently, the answer is Runic right now, because they don't want to lose to that random BS. I see we're also playing Karen Gorgon and Castell in here as well. Alright, I mean, I guess in terms of Inspector Border and, you know, Gary. Okay. Next up here, we have Hero. Okay, so I was wondering if we were going to see any Hero variations out here. Good old Ian Shuffle here, giving this deck the chance to set up. You haven't seen a lot of Ian Shuffle this format. I think from what Hero builds I have seen, this has not really been like the go-to. I think a lot of other people are trying a lot of other like combo variations and so forth, but I mean, setting up Darklaw is still going to be this deck's centralized win con. And the more diverse of the format starts to open up here, I feel like a lot more players are going to kind of start to explore the other option trees out here and see if they can have success with this. I also find it very interesting that this deck is setting up dimensional barriers as well. Other things that other decks can do end up being a lot scarier than like a hero end board. And if you got to turn off your fusions for the turn in order for this deck to play the game, or whatever other big monster category your opponent might be setting up, this feels very, very important. Next up here, we have some Dark World. Now, Branded in High Spirits is kind of turned into a nice little tech option for this deck. It showed up very briefly. I mean, I don't really kind of keep up with Dark World Innovations, but the small number that I've seen have actually, a few of them have tried Branded in High Spirits. So this isn't something that's like totally crazy here, but it is kind of cool. Just trying to toggle in with some of the other interactions that this deck's doing now. We're on 1 Ascension. We're actually playing double trade-in. I like what trade-in tries to do for this deck. It gives you extra outlets to discard. And then, of course, triple gates is fine. Triple Allure and high Lava Golem. Yeah, this is definitely something this deck needs to do in this format. You are going to need to see Lava Golems in order to kind of keep up with the metagame. And as much as I want to say I wish it was a much different story, unfortunately, it's just how it is right now. Next up is Mech. So Mech did get a W out of this weekend. They had very high regional representation last week. Like, it was actually kind of crazy seeing how many tops that they were kind of bringing to the table. But with no buy steals present in the format, Circular's just kind of free to run around and devastate. And I mean devastate your opponents, all right? Like, full Mech combo is a very scary thing, especially when you have like Book of Clips here to clean things up. Nibiru's for lines of defense. Parallel Exceed is the nuts in this deck. I do see that we are citing the one Denko Sekka down here as well, so this is going to give this deck the chance to kind of play through large amounts of back row. Yeah, it's just one copy, but it's not like you can't tutor for it through Small World. Thank you. Being able to bridge the gap into any sort of card that our entire deck could possibly give us. There's nothing possibly wrong with giving us every searchable out in the deck, is there? Well, that's what you're seeing here. Next up here is... This is Kashtira, meaning Triple Blizzard. So target one face-up spell your opponent controls. So this turn, negate the activated effects of that spell card and all spells on the field with that same original name. If the targeted card will be sent to the opponent's graveyard this turn, it is added to their hand instead. You know, this is kind of cute. Your opponent's trying to floodgate you or something like that. Just go ahead and, chain this, and then you're like, oh yeah, by the way, it's gone. Nice, interesting little tech choice. Kind of counter the metagame. I see we're also playing Triple Cross-Eyed Designator, and we're on double copies of Talents here as well. Everything that Kashtira wants to do feels very normal, except for this deck is very teched out, all the way down to the Light Force Sword here. And, of course, my favorite Goliath tech in here, because, making your Arise Heart into a big old bully just feels even better at the end of the day. Next up here, we have some tier elements. But, Robbie, tier is gone. This deck has topped a couple regionals this format. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten that this deck exists, but it's not 100% out. Especially, since these are OTS Championships, a lot more of these lists are going to feel a lot more localized, because they are, but you're going to get the chance to capitalize on this. Book of Eclipses for the defensive options. Mud here is basically what the OCG was doing. It's just, when you have so many less names in your deck for the good ones, you kind of have to find ways to kind of supplement these. And it does feel bad at certain points. But, hey, you know what? This deck gets a chance to make Winda. And any deck that can make Winda consistently and laugh at your opponent usually ends up feeling pretty good at the end of the day. So I like what this deck is also trying to do. A lot of good stuff kind of floating around in terms of this deck. Good stuff. Very happy to see this. Now, the last one we had here made top 16 out of its regional, and also made top 8 out of its OTS Championship. This is Blue Eyes Albaz. So you got the Sages in here. You're going to have all of your Blue Eyes package in here, getting the chance to kind of capitalize and do everything that you're used to seeing, but you're basically having the Blue Eyes package kind of give this deck a little bit more of a push. Is it cool? We've seen this before. It's not like as crazy and innovative as you really do think it is, but this deck does have some really cool lines of play that you can do, and it's a little bit better than your standard Fallen of Albaz good stuff. Sometimes, not all the time, alright? So guys, what do you guys think about these lists? Please, leave a comment down below to what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.